welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video here is about what I use to make my cosplay katana kid bash. It can be for anything from anime to video games, but most people have been mainly curious about what swords I use to make my katanas and what things like details and stuff I use to add them in. And what I use specifically is katanas, mostly anime katanas that are kit versions where as soon as you receive it from the mail, you get them where you have to assemble it yourself. And you gotta make sure you're looking into the descriptions and reviews in order to know if it's a version where it's already assembled together. And as for me, I specifically look for the ones where it has to be assembled together, which is good for me because that way it makes it a lot easier, because that way you get your scabbard, your blade, your handle, then tsuba, then some other stuff that comes along with the katana. And the things that mainly get redesigned are the blade and the handles, and there's also the tsuba, which you can replace with any tsuba you get from almost with any sword. As for these two instructions, they're essentially the same thing. The thing is, there are different versions of where the assembly kits, where you need this piece, and there's a little small rubber band looking piece that's that gets placed in before you place your handle on the inside. And the second version I later found on eBay. It is this one, where the only difference is the end piece where it goes in the pommel, and there's a zip tie. So the first version of katana kit of my katana kit bash is where essentially we just repaint the blade, or you just find a blade color that you might like. This is one of the newest versions that just recently came out on Amazon. This is from Jujutsu Kaisen. If you like things the way they are, you can just go ahead and assemble it. But for me, being the weirdo I am, I like to replicate into something that's not replicated. For example, let's make Takamura's sword from Sakamoto Days instead of Jujutsu Kaisen. So essentially, for example, I would take this blade, save it for something else. Let's put that aside, and give me a moment. Okay, here we are. Essentially, there's a different variety of blades where you can get from multiple different swords available, such as Demon Slayer or One Piece, or occasionally sometimes, but not as much, Jujutsu Kaisen or Tokenranbu. But there's not really surprisingly a whole lot of other media versions available, and the only ones available mostly are Demon Slayer and One Piece. But right now, One Piece seems to be pretty scarce certain times of year, so if you find some available, definitely go searching. Just like the Jujutsu Kaisen one, and this is from the newest Yamato version. And there's also, when there's the whole wanting to repaint things, you can go ahead and just take your silver spray paint and give it a more realistic blade look. that's fine as well. However, if you're not confident with your spray painting, go ahead and just get yourself a blade that has a silver color already. This is a Jujutsu Kaisen with a silver blade. Those are available online right now, which I can find some are available on eBay and Amazon. This is just like, this is recently, however, the newest version where this is the proper blade color. So this works too, if you're not confident in your spray painting. As for Demon Slayer, there are some with blade details that pop up a bit. So stuff like this, I'd say, would require some sanding and then repaint it with silver. However, if you don't want to do that, I'd say go for the blade that is like this, which is Tanjiro's blue one that he had from the beginning. That way you don't have to do so much work having to do the sanding, especially. And going from the ends, these are from the first version. And these are specifically from the second version, where it's the one with the zip ties. Essentially, either version is just fine. I'd say the zip tie one could be a little loose because it can be a concern if it's like wiggling around and stuff. And the third newest version mainly involves snapping in place like these two, but it is slightly different, but I'll show it once I get to the handle part. Excuse me. And give me a moment as I show the scabbards next. And just like I said, as for what I'm gonna pick for Mr. Takamura, this is the perfect blade for Mr. Takamura. And better yet, if I'm to make, like, for example, Miyabi's sword from Zenless Zone Zero, Virgil's sword from Devil May Cry 5 here is perfect for just that. Okay, here is a good example of scabbards that are also can be used for anything, such as this is like the there's that one kitetsu that Luffy has. No, Shodai kitetsu? Or no, that's not it. It's the second one. I don't know it at the moment, but I know for sure which one it is. I like, such as this, I harvested the parts that were on here because I could reuse them for a different design from a different media altogether. Even the tips here, these can be removed with the right tools, such as a hammer and screwdriver. Give me a moment. These are the tools I use to remove these parts and use them for completely different purposes, such as placing them on a different scabbard altogether. And there's nice parts like these that you'll see on my Assassin's Creed swords. And there's also this, which is a nice component for another sword project that I will do in the future. And there are, of course, not every sword has this, but if you want to find yourself a part or find yourself a scabbard with this, definitely get the Wado Ichimonji for something like this. There's even other swords with this, but almost those are not very easy to find at the moment. And I'd say the only one available would be Jujutsu Kaisen's version. Okay, let's get to the handles. Okay, what I have here in this box is essentially a different variety of katana handles, almost all of them from different sizes too. The neat thing about having this many is, like, you can essentially change parts between different ones, such as you can switch this with this, essentially using the very same tools, such as the flathead screwdriver and the hammer, just knocking these off. Even this, almost anything is removable from this, and the only thing that cannot be harvested, I say, would be the wrapping, because they use like a double stick tape or sticky adhesive on the sides to keep the ribbon in place, and those are very sticky and rather filthy to touch afterwards once it's all undone. But the biggest thing to keep would be the ray skin. The biggest thing to be would keep the ray skin. That way you can use it for essentially something else. Like for example, if you're making yourself a Jinsakai sword, definitely keep the black one. And you'll occasionally get like other colors like red or blue or yellow. But there's not really a whole lot of white ones, white fake ray skins, besides Zoro's Shusui sword. So I plan to get a few of those in order to do some projects with those ones. And as I said, I'm going to do Takamura sword, so this would be the sword candidate I have for it. The only next task would be to remove all these. I have essentially have not yet removed these parts for it to harvest it in a separate box, but I'll show you all in just a bit. And also, there are a variety of different sizes, such as real life swords like the uchigatana, the Wakizashi, and the Tanto. Oh, and plus how to undo the previous ropes here, I'd say use something like small scissors or fiskars. These are fiskars. And just I say start from the bottom, or from where it's like waxed on there. But I'd definitely say like remove the parts here first before you do, or you can do it the other way around. Either way works too. Okay, if you look in this box here, you can see that these are all different parts that I've harvested from each and every katana kit I've gathered for my katana kit bash. I'm calling it kit bash because it's essentially knocking some parts off from every sword and then reusing different parts for later. These are the pommels, and yep, and these are the collars at the top from where our handle grip goes. And these are parts, some of these are mixes together. This is for like very useful good parts, such as this. This is from the scabbards. This is like just for the inside. And these are one of the unique pieces, like the yubashiri. And here is that one Kitetsu's parts. Like parts like this can be good for like tachi design swords, and if you can't find yourself parts like this, which are almost impossible to find, and if you do find them separately, those can be pretty expensive and hard to find overseas. So I'd say if you get yourself a Kitetsu from One Piece, these are good parts to act in place of these parts here. And as for that third version of the assembly part, essentially this came from a sword where I used those very same tools I like put it in between the handle and the tsuba and just lifted it, and this essentially snapped out of place. What this is that this is in there, and this is placed in here with those very same bamboo sticks that are used for real life katanas. That keeps the blade and the handle in place. So I'll essentially get more of these versions later, and I will essentially share a majority of those very same ones, and that I finally found would be for the Nodachi size versions. Oh, and hold on as I get to the tsubas. As for what I'll use for my Takamura blade, I'm essentially just gonna go with this and perhaps one of my 10 golden pieces here, because almost majority of them I ended up gathering from Wadoichi Monji's, because that's the more popular blade design in my favor, mainly for its blade. So these, and wait, yep, yeah, I gotta find myself one of the handle pieces, but these are pretty good candidates too, especially from other parts that I have yet to harvest from the other handles. And one more thing, as you are getting each and every one of your katana kit versions, make sure to keep every part that is used to keep your sword together, because those are the very important thing that'll prevent your sword from coming apart altogether. Oh, and the zip ties are on the handle box, because this box was essentially too small. Okay, and one of the best benefits of katana kit bashing is you get a variety of different subas to repurpose entirely for your own design or a design from another media. And you can even like spray paint these to look like something else and not have them be in their original color. Like, for example, these are my most favorite subas, and a majority of swords that have this shaped suba are very great. Especially like, you could almost say Ghost of Tsushima or Jubei sword from Ninja Scroll. Almost any sword has this design. But also, if you want to go with a more unique design like this one, for example, this would be a very good sword for like the Moonlit Katana from Elden Ring. Or you can even use this for one of the Nodachi swords from Gurren Lagann, used by Kamina. Almost any of these are very good. This one is, of course, perfect for Takamura. Although Takamura's has other designs on the inside, what matters mostly is that it's just like his, mostly where it has gold lining on the outside and it's black on the inside. Though it has some other designs that it doesn't have, like Takamura's. And last but not least, if you want to add more details for your own unique katana, or you're re-replicating from something else, there's of course the menakis that are placed in between the handle and the ray skin. And the ribbons I use specifically are synthetic silk and cotton mix. I mostly pick that mainly because it can be either the ribbon for the handles or the sheath too. But there are of course different versions made specifically for the scabbards. Like, notice how there's like a slightly more thicker material. Those work great for scabbards too. But it's only if you find them by chance purely. If you can't find these by chance, go ahead and stick with the synthetic silks. They all come in a variety of different colors. And of course, that's if you want to recreate it to do something else for your like I said, from Gurren Lagann, Kamina's sword, just get yourself a purple ribbon, white ray skin, and one of the Yubashiri subas. And as for how long they take, some of these you'll be able to get them like within the US, and it'll take like a week in the mail. But almost some of them, they will take like 3 weeks to arrive because they're overseas. Just like majority of these things, they will take like almost 3 or 4 weeks to arrive because they are only in overseas. And that even includes the ray skins, which is essentially why some of my sword projects took a while, because I was waiting for these things specifically for my Assassin's Creed Shadow swords. But yes, you can find them essentially on eBay and Amazon. But these ones, I'd say go with the eBay ones, because these come in a much bigger variety, because Amazon tends to like not have certain things on their site for too long. And yes, I gotta get myself some white ray skin for my Takamura blade. And I gotta see if I can use either white or gray for the scabbard of my Takamura blade. Okay, so once you have all your necessary parts, not only are there the regular katana sizes, there are a variety of sizes like the Tanto, the Wakizashi size, and then very recently this year they have now made the Nodachi size. And the only ones available are those already fully assembled ones where you gotta take apart yourselves. These are not the ones that do that, but I will one day show how once I get myself another one and undo it. And there are definitely other swords of their own styles, such as the shirasayas. And just give me a moment as I get to the more unique blades that can also be salvageable. But yes, once you've picked out the right size sword that you want to redesign, this is essentially what it is. And as for different brands, I'd say most of them can definitely fit in the same. I'd say most of their blades can definitely fit in the scabbards, regardless of like different brands, such as like, you know, like this one and the snap-in one versus the zip tying one. And other swords that can also be used for kit bash are the more uniquer and harder to find designs, such as the slime. This is the sword from Slime. You can't find that online anymore. Essentially, these are all blades I could not find online and I found from conventions. And don't worry, they're all, of course, wood. And I look now specifically for wooden plastic katanas because they're made of exactly the same materials as the ones I've shown in the beginning. I essentially buy these just to harvest them for their parts and redesign them into something else. But there are some designs I actually like for this one example. I might just keep it the way it is and just say it's a William sword from Neo, the regular sword he uses, until I replicate him like a more prettier design, like his figurine version. Some of these are definitely designs that are only in overseas, like AliExpress, and they're hard to get. So essentially, that's why they're only like available at conventions and stuff. Like for example, this is a very good scabbard that is I'd say it's for Takamura, because his does not essentially have the scabbards. I'm not sure what these are called, but the collar part. And I don't want to have to go through the hassle of making one of my own for one of this. I just gotta essentially remove this. This is pretty much the same piece from the One Piece Yama Enma sword, and for some reason they put it on this black clover sword scabbard, so I'm taking this. And as I said, you can go ahead and test the scabbards with the blades that you get, and they pretty much all fit perfectly together, even if they're like different brands. One thing I forgot to mention about scabbards is that essentially most of them have like this kind of pommel, but recently they are now making versions where it has like most of the realistic wooden real katana scabbards, where the end of the pommel is like this. And since some anime characters or video game characters scabbards are like this, these are essentially good to also remove. It's only a matter of carefully placing your flathead screwdriver through these along with this. This here is a very good version since it's reincarnated as a slime. And of course, you can paint your scabbard the exact same way. Just get yourself some painter's tape and spray paint, and you can just cover it and make it look like a certain pattern just to get this design too. So this is essentially what the whole katana kit bash results into. And these are the pieces I've picked out for my Takamura sword from Sakamoto Days. And this is one of my finished katana kit bashes. This is the sword from the Yoshiyuki from the Yakuza series. I made this specifically for my Like a Dragon Ishin cosplay. And like I said, I essentially just had these removed, had them repainted, used a gold marker for the end, sprayed the whole scabbard with a light brown spray paint, used black for these after painting off specific areas. Well, first I painted black. I painted like these areas black specifically, and then just used painter's tape to make it look like a certain shape, and then sprayed it with the brown paint. And then once everything is, you can like either lacquer them separately or together. Those ways work too. And of course there's the synthetic silk rope I used. And as I said, you can either choose the like already decided colors for them, such as the silver ones, but as for this one, I decided to repaint it to look like a more realistic blade with a chrome color spray paint, which is a more realistic silver, to give it a realistic blade. And also there's the Haman. I hope you guys can see it. And there's always the selection of your blade collar, the Suba. And as I said, these were removed and resprayed and painted. I essentially did not have to change this at all, but there's not a lot of kit versions where the handles are like this, so you have to make your own. You're gonna have to make your own, and then just get yourself some white ray skin and black synthetic silk wrapping, and just do the whole wrapping yourself. And as for the knot, I'd say go with the sewing style. But that's essentially what your katana kit bash would look like, and the Takamura blade will look just like that. And as for the final blade, and as for the final version of another form of katana kit bash is the shirasaya. Okay, last brand of my katana kit bash is essentially the shirasaya style, where it is in a wooden scabbard, where the blade is in a wooden scabbard, but it's not really made for fighting. But you know how it is in media, it's fantasy. They just have it as a unique design, and they use it for battle anyway, even though it's not really meant for that. Essentially, these wooden ones, you can find them on eBay and Amazon. They are under the name of wooden training swords, but they are obviously wooden shirasayas. Essentially, you can just get yourself one where the outside is already painted either wooden tan, which is the regular wood color, or there's the black color you can find. These were available on Amazon, but they are currently out, so get yourself some on eBay. Some may eventually return to Amazon, so occasionally check for those. And of course, for the outside design, just do the whole painter's taping off, do your own design, spray paint. And I say essentially just spray paint the blade silver. And of course, I'd say spray paint the collar here too, because it's always the plain black color. And of course, if you don't want it to just be plain black, like definitely paint this too, just to give it a more pop design and more realistic design too. These are of course my custom designs that I did. I wouldn't say these are kid bashes, but there are things I added, such as this. This is actually just a thumbtack I spray painted silver and hammered it on here. And it's okay to hammer on things on here, such as this and my Uchigatana I essentially drilled some holes and nailed some things on here just to give it the design as desired. This is my uchigatana blade. This is mainly from a sort of I saw on video of a replica this guy did. And as for these ones, these are ones I found on once more at conventions. I don't know what these are from, but these are plastic shirasaya styled blades. And I can't really say how I can take these apart. I'm kind of worried what happens if I do, but I'd say you can essentially just repaint. Just add some designs to the outside. And one more blade style, such as the uchigatana, Wakizashi, Tanto, and Nodachi. There are also chokutos. One other chokuto I unfortunately did not get, that's currently out at the moment, that's currently sold out at the moment, it would be Yura Okatsu. I missed my chance of getting one, so sadly I did not get to show that in a video like this, but it's essentially a kit version 2, but yes, that would have been a good one too. But yeah, most I can say is I'm definitely gonna get 2 more of this and make myself a sword from a certain, and replicate myself some, like a pair of black and white swords from a certain dual blade master from Ghost of Yote, who we know as today as Musashi. So definitely look forward to that. And I'd say that's all I do for my katana kit bashing, but and to those that want to make their curious of how I've made them, this is essentially what I do and what I mainly use, and just end up painting and just repainting, and just get yourself the ribbons and other things you need. And as you're doing that, it's almost like making your own. It's almost like feeling like those blacksmiths from Japan that make the katanas. That's what I enjoy mainly out of all this, and you get beautiful designs such as these. I'm still proud of how this one turned out. And the stuff I use is mainly, what I use essentially is Rust-Oleum spray paint. These are especially good for, you know, the collars or any gold colors you want. This was, of course, the gunmetal gray one I have. Of course, I'd say essentially test it on a wooden block if you don't like how a certain color looks. Find the spray paint that works just for you, and that works right for you and stuff. But always make sure it's on during a perfect weather. And once I'm done with all the spray coloring, this is what I use to lacquer all my props. I don't use gloss because gloss will tend to get sticky, so semi-gloss I say is the best choice for it. Or you can also use satin, even though satin is not as shiny and it's a mix of matte too. The best examples of my katana kit bashing would be, these are my Assassin's Creed Shadows blades. And as you can see, all the blades are painted. And these are the handles. And everything is completely redone and designed. The subas here are all custom made. And here are the menakis, and all the ray skins I use. All the wrappings I did by hand, purely. And these are, you know, one of the third-party things. But that's a good example. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. And I'd say and like I said, these are essentially what I've picked out for Mr. Takamura's sword. Because Though I'd say try to use some parts, I'd say, that go as closely to your character choices, to like sword design, like by the blade. If not, if there's no, of course, most of the time there'll be no blade available, and just do it yourself. And find yourself a scabbard that will work with it just fine. Or just essentially just use the parts you find just for the end, or just the pommel and the collar part, and remove anything that's unnecessary, and just add your ribbon. Like for this one, for Takamura's here, it's either like a white or gray ribbon around here. And as for this, I just gotta remove the ribbons and then this, and just gotta repaint them gray and get myself a white ray skin and a black wrapping. And the Suba here, it works just I'd say it works just right, even though there are some other details in here. This is a, I'd say this is a Suba that's from Shank's sword from One Piece. Sadly, it's a version that's also sold out online, sadly, so if I didn't, I would use like Wado Ichimonji and just repaint it this very same color, and probably add some other designs just like Takamura's. And just like I said, it's this version, and just keeping all the small necessary parts just for that. And like I said, just for the shirasaya style, just essentially just repaint whatever design you want to do. Like for example, Takazo swords from Ghost of Yote, just paint your blade, your collar, and then do like, I don't know, do whatever design, like gold linings from Takezo's sword. Or better yet, a Tachibana sword where you add red beads around it. And there you got your own design of a cosplay shirasaya sword. And just a warning, definitely take your swords to the prop checks, and just essentially they will just wrap a zip tie or something around your sword just for security purposes, because it'll still be seen as too realistic. Like my sword there from Yakuza there got checked, and of course it had to get zip tied. But I hope this video was helpful to those who are essentially looking to make their own swords and get themselves the necessary stuff. I'll send links down to like kit version swords like this, and then the ribbon and ray skins you can get yourself. Those are easy to find on eBay essentially. And there's also many different designs of the Menaki also. So I hope that this is of help to you guys to make your very own katana of either your character that has not been, your character's sword that has not been replicated, or you can just make your very own sword in general. Hope you all continue to stay in tuned, and look forward to my Takamura blade and many other projects. Thank you.